The Meyiwa murder trial has been postponed to the 2nd of May. This happened after a new attorney was appointed to represent accused numbers 1 and 2. A new witness was expected to take to the stand today after a friend of the late Meyiwa, that's Mr. Silindelo Masikhane's testimony, ended last week. My colleague, senior reporter Silindelo Masikane, of course, is on this story. She was in court a little bit earlier. Good afternoon, Silindelo. Welcome back to our studios here. Tell us, it was a very short appearance this morning. I mean, it didn't take too long, the proceedings in court.
Not at all, Bradan. In fact, we were all quite surprised at just how short these proceedings were, especially because we all woke up knowing that today is the day we're getting a new witness in the witness box to testify about what they know or what they saw on the night that Meyiwa was shot and killed. You would remember that as far back as April, this trial has been ongoing. We started off with Sergeant Thabo Mosia, the forensic investigator, who was under oath for 5 months. He's so far the longest witness to be testifying with regards to this case, and you know, from what experts were telling me, didn't do really much for the state's case because the defense really poked a lot of holes in terms of how the crime scene was handled, a lot of allegations and accusations around the crime scene being tampered with, contaminated, as well as cleaned. We then moved on to the second state witness, that was Sergeant Patrick Mthethwa. He was one of the first responders to the crime scene, who interestingly told the court, Bradan, that when they arrived, it looked as if nothing had happened. Then, of course, we spent about 2 weeks in September, as well as a week now in November, with Silindelo Masikane. Finally, one of the people who were in the house on the night Meyiwa was shot and killed, somebody who's a childhood friend of the deceased, someone, of course, who had a better understanding in terms of what we were expecting him to tell us about what happened, but also his evidence in chief really talking to how a long time had passed, 8 years since the incident occurred, and he couldn't remember a lot of details, but the defense accusing him of being an evasive witness, Bradan, saying that he used his friend's death to make a quick buck. We know that he participated in the Netflix documentary and did not share the proceeds with the Meyiwa family, and also accusing those who were in the house of being under the influence of alcohol, meaning the court, telling the court that they cannot rely on his account of what happened that night. So, of course, today then, Bradan, we were then expecting, of course, to see the state's fourth witness. There was speculation that was very rife around it being someone else who was in the house, but at this point, we'll never know, or we'll know 6 months from now exactly who that witness was going to be, and that is if the state decides to call the very same witness they were intending to today.
Yeah, another postponement. One can imagine that the family would not be happy. Did you get a chance to speak to the Meyiwa family?
So we know, of course, that the sisters, in particular the Meyiwa sisters, have been attending court proceedings periodically where they can. In fact, when Masikane was called up to come and testify, they were brought up by AfriForum, which is representing the Meyiwa family, on a watch brief, and they've been attentively listening to the testimony of Masikane. Of course, you know, speaking to them, they were saying that they were really hoping that Masikane would come out with the truth about what happened. That is quoting one of the sisters, Nomalanga, saying that they knew Masikane personally and they were hoping that he would have, you know, some kind of awakening of his conscience to allow him to actually tell the truth. Many a times in court you could tell that they were just not impressed with some of his responses, and speaking to them today, absolute disappointment and shock, actually, because there was the expectation of a postponement, Bradan, after the November sitting, but I don't think anybody expected 6 months. And for the family, it's yet another delay after 8 years of waiting for this trial to resume. So absolute disappointment from the family side.
Yeah, so now we're going to have to wait, and 6 months is quite a long time for people to wait as the new lawyer gets to grips, Silindelo, with this whole case.
Certainly so, and from what legal experts are telling me is that, an accused do have a right to legal representation, and if they decide to change it, that is absolutely their right. But I think because of how long this trial is taking, there are many concerns around what could happen within the next 6 months. But just to give our viewers a roundup of what happened in court, here's a little snippet of just what happened in court this morning in those very short court proceedings. Court proceedings resumed with the expectation that the state would call a new witness to testify. But before they could be called, Judge Chifua Maumela was informed of a new development.
Going forward, Mr. Ramasipili will be taking over the defense of accused number 1 and 2.
The instruction first that I got was from Mr. Sibia, the father of accused number 1. And his instructions to me was that they want me to inherit the matter with respect to accused number 1 and 2 from my learned colleague, Mr. Tobani.
The new legal representative for accused 1 and 2 will now have to familiarize themselves with court transcripts and the 2 dockets. However, accused 3 and 4 will continue to be represented by Titi Tobani. You've been fired. Why?
We're not being fired. The clients have the right to change their mind and choose another representative. However, it will delay the whole proceedings, even though we are also surprised. We were just told this morning in court, actually by not the clients, but this new legal representative. Ethically, to me, it doesn't sit well, but I don't have any issue with the clients terminating the mandate. We should have been told in advance.
The trial will now resume on the 2nd of May, 2023. Silindelo Masikane, Johannesburg.